I would say at least half of my gaming life has been spent in MMORPGs, and most of that time was spent in World of Warcraft. But over the years I did try other MMOs. It's just that none of them really got to me. So I recently decided to try another MMO again, fully expecting to quit after 2 or 3 days, uninstall it and just pretend like it never happened. And that MMO was Old School Runescape. And man, the start of this game is rough. I played for around 5 hours and I was just not having fun that entire time. At this point I genuinely think I will never find another MMO with a good onboarding experience ever again. So after those 5 hours I just played for like 80 more hours and now I cannot stop. Now look, this is not a positive video. I want to make videos about my experience with OSRS chronologically. And the first episode cannot be anything except mostly negative. Because no credit where no credit is due, in my opinion, the first few hours of this game are really bad. Normally I would have quit immediately if it wasn't for one thing. I already knew how loved Old School Runescape has become over the last few years among old school MMO enjoyers. And I would genuinely bet my life on this. Almost every new player who started OSRS recently falls into one of 4 categories. First category, and probably the biggest one, they log in, they get confused immediately, so they just open guides and look at tutorial videos the second they spawn in Lumbridge. Second category, they start with friends who already know the game and basically function like tutorials themselves, while the player also uses guides anyway. Third category, they go in blind because they want to do that, they realize the early game feels like shit and they quit. And honestly, I think this group is way bigger than people realize. Yes, the game is growing, so nobody talks about it, but this growth, I think it hides a lot of dead bodies under it. And then there's the rare fourth category, the one I ended up in. The people who go in blind, fully realize how miserable the early game feels, refuse to use guides, but also refuse to quit because they believe the suffering must eventually lead to something good. Not because the game itself convinces them early on, god no, the game does almost everything in its power to convince you about the opposite, but because of the game's reputation. Because for the last few years, this game just keeps growing, because every MMO community seems to agree that Old School RuneScape is genuinely good, because creators like George Strife Hayes, The Lazy Peon and Mad Season all seem to genuinely love it. And I really think people underestimate how much the game's reputation, combined with constant use of guides, carries the early experience. And I do agree with that sentiment. If you like old school MMOs, do yourself a favor and give OSRS a fair shot if you didn't already. The sad part is that I cannot recommend experiencing the game in the best way MMOs are experienced. Blind, no guides, no tutorial videos, no wikis opened on the second monitor all the damn time. But not because you don't know what to do, but because you don't know why you would ever want to do any of it. So let's get more specific. There are 2 massive problems with the start of Old School RuneScape. First, the game gives you absolutely no reason to care about anything. Second, the quests and the overall vibe are a bit too goofy, especially at the start. Now, you probably expected me to say the game is confusing or you have no idea what to do, but honestly, I don't think that's the problem at all. Tutorial Island explains the basics pretty fine. You have skills, you do activities connected to those skills, the number goes up. Then dopamine maybe happens. You cut trees, wood cutting goes up. You cook, cooking goes up. A caveman could understand this game mechanically within 12 minutes. Its complexity is not apparent at first, not at all, and that is a very good thing. The issue starts the second you spawn into Lumbridge. I know this is not World of Warcraft, there isn't a series of quests that guide you from level 1 to level 60. OSRS is supposed to be the type of game where you make your own adventure. The world is yours, go explore, make your own adventure, be free. Sounds great, and it's great when done right. OSRS does not do it right. Because the very first question every player asks after the tutorial island, even if they don't realize they ask themselves that question, is completely ignored. And the question is, why would I want to do any of this? Why would I want to level strength? Why would I care about my prayer level? Why would I spend hours fishing or doing agility courses or anything? Just throwing boring text at me saying, wow, at level 43 you unlock this ability. It's not enough. It creates zero emotional investment, and that's assuming I even noticed the text in the first place, because I didn't for quite a while. And of course, I already assume that something like that will happen. I don't need the game to tell me that getting more strength will help me deal more damage. I know that, it's very basic. But you do have to make players want to grow stronger, want to progress, want to chase something on a personal level. Because if all I am looking for is a game where I can increase my stats so I can deal more damage and become more tanking and move faster, OSRS is one among millions. RPGs understood this for decades, especially MMORPGs, and even before OSRS was a thing. A few examples explain this perfectly. No need for me to explain the concept myself. I will give 3 of them. Example number 1. Elden Ring. What is the first thing you see after leaving the tutorial? The Tree Sentinel. This giant dude, a golden knight on a massive horse. You walk near him, the boss music starts, and he immediately breaks your spine and uses it like a toothpick. You hit him and his HP bar doesn't even move. What a stupid design choice, am I right? Why would you put an almost impossible enemy directly in front of new players? Wrong, the Tree Sentinel is a smart game design decision. Beyond existing to entertain the psychopaths who spent 14 hours killing him naked with a wooden club when the game released, his real purpose is to give the average player their first personal goal. The game instantly communicates 3 things. You are weak as fuck. You are free to ignore him, just move away. But one day you can come back, because even if you know nothing about the game, you probably understand that this giant terrifying enemy probably drops good loot, good rewards, maybe good lore, a bunch of XP. The game is silently telling you, hey, go explore, learn more about the game, get stronger, then come back and earn this. That's a very powerful moment. The player immediately has motivation, a long-term object sitting in the back of their mind. But to be fair, Elden Ring gives you plenty of other goals quickly anyway. So removing the Tree Sentinel wouldn't destroy the experience. It would be a bad idea, since it does a great job, but the game wouldn't lose that much. It would be okay. So let's look at a game where this type of design is absolutely crucial. Subnautica. In Subnautica, the early game is pretty boring mechanically, just like Old School Runescape. You can barely swim for 10 seconds before running out of oxygen, your equipment sucks, and near your starting area, there's not much happening. It takes a while before the game really opens up and becomes fun. So what does the game do to convince you to grind until that point? It gives you a giant question mark hanging over the horizon at all times. Quite literally, the crashed spaceship. That massive wreck is always visible from your spawn location, and that is absolutely not an accident. The developers could have hidden it underwater, they could have placed it farther away, but they deliberately made sure you constantly see it looming in the distance. So naturally, your brain starts asking questions. What is in there? Can I explore it? What the hell happened? You can technically try to swim there immediately, and if you do, the game basically tells you, good luck, stupid. The area is terrifying, dangerous, and clearly designed for later progression. But that's the point. The ship gives meaning to everything else you're doing. Why am I collecting fish? Why am I crafting oxygen tanks? Why am I farming boring rocks? Why am I doing this boring stuff? Because I want to reach that, because it's actually quite interesting and it really makes you curious. But how about we end up with an example from another MMO, Vanilla World of Warcraft. Vanilla WoW absolutely understood this principle. First of all, every race has its own intro cinematic, and every single one is designed to make you feel like your character matters and you have a role to play. All of them end with some variation of, now it's your duty to do this thing, to fight, to save your people, to, I don't know, to do something great for your people, for your race.
As a proud defender of Durotar, It is your duty to crush your enemies, both seen and unseen. For the nefarious agents of the Burning Legion still wander the land. You must defend the kingdom against the foul mongrels that encroach upon it, and hunt down the subversive traitors who seek to destroy it from within. Now is the time for heroes. Now humanity's greatest chapter can be told. As a gnome of proud standing, it falls to you to answer the challenge and lead your curious people to a brighter future. As one of the Forsaken, you must massacre any who pose a threat to the New Order, human, undead, or otherwise.
Every single intro, and that's obviously not accidental. Blizzard intentionally ends those cinematics with a call to action. The game wants you to think from the first second, hell yeah, I do want to become a hero. But honestly, the real genius of Vanilla WoW was something even simpler. The first time you entered Stormwind or Ogrimmar and saw a high-level player wearing insane armor and weapons. That was it. That was the moment millions of players got hooked. You see some warrior standing there with
"Can anyone just say Thunder Fury, blessed blade of the Windseeker?"
ridiculous armor, shoulder pads the size of a small apartment, and your immediate reaction is, yo dude, where did you get this stuff? And the guy tells you the name of some mysterious raid you've never heard about before. Molten Core, Blackwing Lair, Naxxramas, AQ40. You know absolutely nothing about any of it. But suddenly you have a goal. That's the moment players went from, I don't know what I'm doing here, to alright, screw it, I'm leveling, I want to be like that guy. There is no moment like that in Old School Runescape, unfortunately. I already knew the game was good. If this many people love this game so much, they probably aren't all hallucinating. But the game itself never gave me a reason to care about leveling or progressing anything at all. There was no lore hook that made me want to explore the world and save someone and become a hero, do something, be someone, no big mystery, no cool reward dangling in front of my face, nothing. And look, most RPGs start with boring tasks. Killing cows, killing birds, catching fish, collecting rocks, that part is normal. The difference is that a good early game makes those boring early tasks feel like the first step towards something exciting, something mysterious, something you actually care about. If I had to describe the start of Old School Runescape in one single word, the word would be cold. Watching paint dry gets me more emotionally invested than Old School Runescape did at first. And before the OSRS veterans arrive, riding their mobility scooters, yelling, But the whole point is that you make your own goals. Okay, Grandpa, calm the fuck down. Because here's the issue, when a completely new player arrives in Lumbridge, almost none of the things available immediately are the kind of things that make you go, hell yeah, that's my goal, I want to do that. I will kill cows for 10 hours. I will milk them and chop trees for 10 hours. So eventually I can what? That's the problem. Now obviously I'm not saying the game should straight up tell you, yo bro, get 99 strength and you can get this awesome sword, you can unlock this quest, you can go here, do that. That would be lame and immersion breaking. And I'm also not saying the game needs modern MMO quest vomit everywhere like World of Warcraft. OSRS is not that kind of game. Honestly, I actually think the questing in OSRS is much better than the questing in any kind of version of World of Warcraft. Yes, I said it, I know, weird take coming from a classic World of Warcraft addict, but it's true. Anyway, the game doesn't need to hold your hand. It just needs to tease you. Tease possibilities, give you a sneak peek. Literally, any of the examples I'm about to give you would instantly improve the early game. Here's an example. Imagine there's a huge crowd of people gathered around an absolutely gigantic pig near one of the farms outside of Lumbridge. Any player would be curious about what the hell is going on. So you walk over there and ask an NPC, what's up? And they explain to you that every year the king hosts a strongman competition. To qualify, contestants must lift the fattest pig in the kingdom. The winner receives a weapon forged by the royal blacksmith, a famous person for crafting legendary gear. So naturally, you get hyped, you try lifting the pig up, but the game tells you, sorry mate, you need 75 strength for that. Boom, done. Suddenly strength is no longer just the number that goes up while I commit crimes against innocent cows. It now represents access to something cool, something memorable. What weapon will I get? How is the competition gonna look like? Will I get some kind of fame for it? Who is the king? Or imagine this, you walk past a farm and see a cat sprint in front of you with a letter in its mouth, while an old lady chases after it. But of course she cannot catch the cat. She explains that the cat stole a letter from her son, a fisherman in Port Sarim, because it smelled like fish. She asks you to go take the letter back. Then she says something like, I don't have much to reward you with, but you can keep the damn cat if you want. I never liked it anyway. Every MMO player will be like, sick, free cat pet. We all want a cat pet. You chase the cat, it climbs up a tree, you try climbing after it, and the game tells you, whoa, stop, that requires 25 agility. And just like that, agility matters now. Not because the game gave you a spreadsheet explaining skill rewards, but because you personally want something tied to that skill. Or maybe there's a tiny treasure chest inside Lumbridge Castle. Of course players click it immediately, but the chest is locked. Then the king's daughter, which happens to be inside that room, says, don't you know, Daddy always keeps the key in his pocket, so you go and try pickpocketing the king. But the game tells you, sorry mate, requires level 75 thieving. Again, simple, elegant. These aren't intrusive tutorials, these aren't giant glowing quests, this isn't the game holding your hand and screaming directions at you. None of this is mandatory, it's just proof of concept, a small sneak peek into what the game eventually becomes, because even if you don't care about the cat or the treasure or the pig competition, the game has still communicated something extremely important to you. Hey, all of these skills you see, they actually matter. They unlock quests, areas, activities, secrets, minigames, gear, weird interactions, cool rewards. This world is built around them in interesting and creative ways. That's all the game needed to do. Because as someone who started completely blind, never watched guides, never used a wiki, the thing I struggled with most was motivation. Playing early OSRS felt like playing Subnautica if the crashed ship was missing entirely and the ocean was ugly to look at. Now, thankfully, I pushed through because I already knew the game had to be good. Too many people loved it for that to not be true. And yes, very good decision. But if I didn't know that beforehand, I would have quit. Actually, plot twist, I did quit. The first time I tried Old School Runescape was around 4 years ago, before the game exploded in popularity. Before every MMO creator started talking about it non-stop, before my friends started talking about it, and that first attempt went exactly how you'd expect. I chopped trees, killed cows, killed goblins, mined ore, watched numbers slowly increase. Then after about, 3 hours, I just sat there thinking, what the hell am I doing with my life? My stats went up, cool, so what? You cannot expect new players to magically imagine all the cool content hidden later in the game. You can't just tell me, bro, trust me, eventually the quests become amazing, the community is great, the progression feels incredible, just play for 20 more hours. It's the game's job to make players understand that, or at least make them curious enough to keep going until they discover it themselves. Old School Runescape basically assumes that you will start the game with a guide already open. Okay bro, now complete this quest so you can unlock this area, so you can train this skill, so you can unlock this activity, so you can eventually understand the game and why it is good. If that is what it takes for you to keep playing, okay, do it. The game is still 100% worth it. The game is incredible, but it still sucks that you have to do that. Because the best way to experience an MMO is blind, exploring the world on your own, discovering weird things naturally, getting lost, making mistakes. That's the magic of MMOs. And in OSRS, trying to play like that at the start is just tedious and boring. The game gives you so little motivation that eventually it starts feeling like, not like an adventure, but more like unpaid fantasy labor. And then there's the second big issue, the early quests. In my opinion, some of the first quests you encounter actually hurt the game a lot for new players because they are bad. But I don't want this video to be too long, so I will save that topic for the second OSRS video. If you're curious about that, or if you want to see the later episodes where I finally talk about why this game is so incredible despite all these early game problems, then subscribe to the channel and maybe throw a like on the video as well. It helps me a lot. Because despite everything I just said, I genuinely really like this game a lot. I'm looking forward to playing it like a complete degenerate and making more videos about it. And for my already existing subs, no, I'm not quitting World of Warcraft. That game still remains way too important to me, but I finally think it's time to take a proper break. Because I played it way too much, man. I've been doing that for a very long time, and Blizzard also takes their sweet time with Classic Plus because they are just too stupid and out of touch, so it takes way too long for them to release that. I will still make World of Warcraft videos though, because I do want to still keep talking about it. At the end of the day, it's still my favorite MMO ever, and I have a lot to say, especially right now, when all this stuff about Classic Plus keeps happening. Anyway, let me know what you guys think in the comments down below, and until the next time, peace.